Hello, this is Jason P. Wilson, Zero in X-Force, and today it is Saturday. It is October 8th, 2011, and this is a special posting that I'm doing. I've been watching a lot of your guys' videos for a while now, and you've been doing these really cool videos that shows the comics that really brought you into loving comic books, and which is now, some of our favorite hobbies that we have, but that really brought you to really love comics and appreciate this medium that can do something that no other medium can do, and that's bring us stories through artwork and writing and coloring and all the pencilers, all the fantastic work they do. It's a very unique experience. It's something that can only be understood from comic fans like ourselves, us that really love comics and appreciate comics for what they do. And I've been really enjoying your guys' videos, so I thought I would do my own here and show you guys the comics that really brought me to be a comic book fan and someone who really loves comic books. So these are also my original comics. Now, like a lot of I've had a big collection, and then I went through phases where I either lost a bunch of my comics or they were stolen, stuff like that. But there's been a few, the most important ones, not necessarily in value, but in sentimental value, and those I was able to hold on to this whole time. So the first time I was ever exposed to comics, I was in grade school. To be honest, I can't remember the grade. It was like, I'm thinking like fourth grade, and it was like third or fourth grade. I was a little guy, and I remember recess. I moved schools a lot when I was a kid, so I was always having to make new friends. That made me kind of shy, and I remember I moved to this school, and it was like fourth grade, and I went to recess, and there's this guy, and he was reading comics, and I was really curious, and he was really nice, and he let me read some of the comics with him, and from the very beginning, as soon as I turned the pages, I was just loving what I was experiencing, and it ended up being a thing where every recess we would go and we'd hang out this was up in the foothills of California, up in Alta Sierra, Grass Valley area, and we would hang out by this tree and just read these ElfQuest comic books. Now, they were all his, but he was a really nice guy, and he ended up letting me have some of these comics, and he gave them to me. And so this issue here, ElfQuest number 3, this was my very first comic book. Again, I can't remember my age. It was about fourth grade, but I was a little guy, and this comic was just like opening a door to a world of imagination, and I was absolutely captivated. And from there on, I just loved comic books. Now, like I said, these are the comic books that I had. So this is the very first comic book he gave me, and it was black and white, and this is a large format. This is like magazine size format, but it was, of course, back then it was only $1.50, but $1.50 back then was a lot. But I didn't understand the difference between Marvel and DC and independent. So obviously this is an independent. This is done by Wendy and Richard Penn, and they did everything. I mean, they had some help on some of the coloring, but for the most part, it was all Wendy Penn doing all the covers and all the artwork. Now, of course, the colors for these singles, originals, first prints is only on the covers. Inside it's all black and white. But the artwork and the storytelling was so good. I continually go back to read the ElfQuest comics. Now, I have the full story all on the original Star Blazer trades, the one that was actually colored by Wendy Penn herself. After that, they had all these reprints that were colored by computers and stuff that were not nearly as good. Wendy was a lover of what she did, and she just put love in every pencil and in every color that she did. So the only time she ever colored the entire ElfQuest original story was the first 4 trades by Starblazer. Then she colored that. Before that, it was all pencil and no color except for the here. And this really cool thing is every issue would have one of her drawings and one of her colors of some of the main characters. So Rex, Cutter, Alita, all these characters, Skywise, that I absolutely loved. And I had this first one, and then over the years, I ended up getting some of the other issues. But this was my very first comic right here, ElfQuest number 3. These are all originals that I've kept this whole time. These I was able to keep from all the reasons why we lose some of our favorite comics, but I was able to keep these. And again, I loved how these were done. I love the format too. This is one of my favorite issues here. This is when they got this cool armor that was done like a wolf, and all of the elves had their special armor. I just really liked it. Cutter was an awesome character, and I was really into this story. And I mean, when I read these comics when I was a little kid, I just absolutely, I felt like these guys, I knew these characters. I read every page over and over and over again. And I have one of them that's out. And so whenever I open these up, and like I usually read them in their trade back form, the one that I mentioned. But I mean, every subtle thing that's done in here, the beautiful artwork, the really thought out writing, the pacing, everything was so well done. And as a kid, I'm just enjoying the heck out of it. I didn't realize till later how special this was, having one person or 2 people just do everything. You know, this is truly a creator-owned comic that they had full control over, and they told the story they wanted to at the pace they wanted to, and you don't see that anymore, really. And whenever I read this story of ElfQuest, it just takes me back, and I have the same exact emotions over and over again. I did this funny thing. Like I said, I had the story, and I would read it. You know, every once in a while, I'd pull out the trades and read them again, and I would listen to Pat Benatar, and just over and over again the Seven the Hard Way album, and just read the story. So whenever I read these stories, I have that Pat Benatar soundtrack in the back of my head. So you know, definitely this is what opened the door for me to love comic books. But after ElfQuest, I really didn't get, you know, that was it. That was the only comics that I read. And it wasn't until later on, and I remember I was in some kind of small like grocery store, and comic books were like on those kind of metal racks that would turn. So they would kind of, you know, I forget what they're called, but all the magazines and the comics would be in these turning metal displays. And I saw this comic. These again are the original comics that I held on to. I saw this comic, number 15, New Mutants, and I begged my mom to please allow me to have my allowance so I could pick this comic up. And I was really fascinated with this artwork. And then I opened it up, and I just fell in love with these characters in New Mutants. And I actually went back and found number 14 so I could see what happened beforehand. Now, this was the first time that I actually would search out back issues so I could get the full story. And eventually I had all New Mutants from 1 to 100. Unfortunately, I don't have those anymore, but what I did is I had my original comics. I kept those a little bit separate than my full collection. So when people ended up stealing my comic boxes and I ended up, moving a lot and stuff, even though I always took care of my comics very well, it's just things happen, and things happen that you lose your collection. But I was fortunate enough to hold on to my originals, the ones that really got me started. So I read New Mutants for a long time, and then it was these issues here, 57 through 61. Here's 3 of them. These are also this was the first time that I started, not with the exception of Wendy Pym stuff, because it was only ElfQuest that she did, and it was only the original ElfQuest that I was really loving. This was the first time that I actually loved a particular artist, and I believe this artist's name was Brent Blevins or something like that. I'll have to look. It's been a long time, but Brent Blevins, yes. So this was the first time that I wanted to follow an artist. Now, again, I was a tween, and so to me, this artwork was fantastic. I mean, I love the pencil style, and of course, now paper is like really brings the colors off. But back then, I mean, this is like newspaper type. I mean, wow, and this is the kind of paper, it doesn't really hold up well over the years. It turns brown and stuff. But yeah, this is the first time where I started reading, and the penciler I just loved. And whenever this penciler would do something, it was mostly with Marvel, I would just want to read it. But this was my favorite run on one of my favorite comics. And whenever I pull these out and read them, I just start to have the same kind of feelings I felt when I was that age, reading comics. I was really into the relationships. I guess you could say New Mutants and X-Men was my kind of like soap opera. I really enjoy the characters. I enjoyed the interactions between them, and of course, this is the big one with Fall of the Mutants when Doug died, and I thought that was like, what? I was completely blown away with some of the stuff that was going on. Yeah, and also I always liked H.G. Wells, and this had a kind of like Island of Dr. Monroe type storyline with the New Mutants, so I like that. A really comic that really just, I don't know, whenever I see this art style, it just brings me back, and it's definitely my favorite run that I read back then. So yes, these are the comics that made me a comic lover, and I was fortunate enough to, through all the stuff that's happened to my comic collection, I was lucky enough to be able to hold on to these originals. So, when I look at these again, these are the comics that I looked at when I was a little kid. So I do like that. Most of my collection had to slowly build up again, but yeah, those are the comics that really made me the comic collector that I am now, and I'll always have these in my collection. So I'm really interested in your guys' collections as well. I've seen some of you, but there's a lot of you that I watch videos of that I'm not 100% sure on the comics that really brought you to where you are now as a comic lover. So I would love to hear from you guys. And with that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.